What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Coinbros, your guide through the greatest industry on this little tiny rock hurling through the universe in the simulation that we're all living in together. And we got a lot of big stories I pulled up on my computer here that I've read about today. And one of them, Bitcoin's holding around 70K. Amazing. Two, 45-day ceasefire proposal. We're going to talk about that probably first. Straits of Hormuz reopening proposal, right? So that could be huge. And $195 million in shorts were liquidated and got wrecked, right? So a lot of people were planning on the market dumping and they got cleaned out. And last but not least, MicroStrategies, like I said in previous videos, they're going to start buying up more Bitcoin at the lows here, right? Under 70K. And that's just what happened. So they bought $330 million worth of Bitcoin, MicroStrategies. We'll talk more about that. And let's dive right into it. So I'm reading here. So there is a diplomatic proposal on the table for a 45-day ceasefire and to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. The Straits of Hormuz, I'm sure you all know, is where all the boats come through with oil, and we haven't been able to get any oil. And basically what the entire war is over is it's an oil war, right? We want to get our ships and we want to be able to get oil, and they're basically shutting down the Straits of Hormuz for certain people, like anyone that's affiliated with the U.S. obviously. And there is a proposal that Trump said that they're going to put on the table. So that's why you got this immediate pump, right? It wasn't like the last week where they kind of said, oh, you know, the war is going to be over, and then both sides are arguing back and forth, and they say, no, we didn't even talk to you guys, and then the market dumps. Well, this time there hasn't been a resolution. Nobody's signed anything, but nobody's disputing it on either side. So you're not seeing Iran say, we're not doing that. That's not happening. We don't know if it will happen. But basically just the idea that there's a proposal for a 45-day halt and to reopen the Straits of Hormuz, which will basically let oil come back into certain places. A lot of our allies are getting wrecked because of it, and they don't even have any stake in the war. And it's just good for the entire world if that strait gets opened up. So just that statement alone has actually really helped the industry, and we're holding around 70K. On Bitcoin, Ethereum's at like 2,200, which is great to see. Even Solana pumped about 4 or 5%. So, you know, with that being said, it's very possible that another statement comes out and the market dumps, right? It's a crazy world we live in now where a tweet, you know, from somebody can completely just dictate the direction that the market goes. So we're going to have to wait and see, but it is a positive, in my mind, it's a positive statement. Let's hope they come to some kind of resolution, or even if it's just a 45-day pause and the Straits of Hormuz open up. That's good for the world, and let's just hope that, you know, they can figure something out, right? Because we need that to happen. So that's the first story. So there's been a huge diplomatic proposal. Let's hope that both sides come to their senses and then we figure something out, right? Because we don't need war. Any way you look at it. All right. Next up, let's look at Bitcoin snapshots. About 69K, almost 70K. We held all through last week through the Easter weekend, which is always a bad weekend for crypto. Held strong through it. I think what we are seeing that the sellers are getting very exhausted. And at some point, with all the infrastructure and everything happening in the world, price will catch up to what's going on. And we will talk more about what's happening. So next story, MicroStrategies bought 330 million more Bitcoin, not $1 million worth of more Bitcoin, which is the equivalent of, I have to look of how many Bitcoin, but whatever, it's a lot of money, right? Like a third of $1 billion. And it's saying now that Motley Fool noted that spot ETFs and treasury holders now control 12% of the entire supply of Bitcoin. So institutional lockup of supply is accelerating even as price trades 47 below ATH. So we're down 50% from the all-time high, but guys like Michael Saylor and these ETF holders, and they own 12% of the entire supply, and they just keep buying, right? And it's not going to stop. They'll probably be at 20% before we know it. Within the next year or so, and they are gobbling up Bitcoin, right? So that's a big story. I mean, they're going to continue to do it. I said it last week. I'm like, at these prices down here, the Michael Saylors of the world, they're going to get as while you guys sell for you know, tiny profits or just like swing trade your Bitcoin, they're just swooping it up, man. They're coming in and just gobbling the whole thing up. That's why they call them whales. You know, they're just sucking up all the little fish, and they're not going to stop. So we'll see where that goes. You know, it's pretty obvious they're going to try to get 1 million Bitcoin, and they're very close. So they might already be there. I'd have to check. 70K is the gate, and that's a very critical line, right? If we can crack over 70K, go to 72, we could be. There is a world where we saw the bottom. There is a world where we do not see, a 60K Bitcoin again. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But there's a world where we might have seen the bottom, guys. I mean, that could have been it. It wouldn't surprise me with everything going on. What else we got? So we got the ceasefire. We got spot ETF, treasury holders. Japan's 10-year bond yield hits 25-year high. Global liquidity stress is real. Yeah, so I'll read this out to you guys. Japan's 10-year bond yield hit a 2.39%, its highest in 25 years. Japanese institutions hold roughly 390 trillion in government bonds. As yields rise, these institutions are forced to shore up balance sheets and sell risk assets globally. The massive source of liquidation stress that extends far beyond crypto. So there is a lot going on in the economy worldwide, right? You got the war going on. You have, things like this story with Japan. It's going to get very interesting over the next year what happens. There's a lot of people that are doomsday people that think like we're going to go into a insane recession, maybe even a depression with everything going on. We have a hyperinflation with money and with the dollar, with the US dollar. And everyone's been kind of preaching that for the longest time, right? So the next year or two is going to be very interesting. But one thing I can say is people got to put their money somewhere, right? And, something like a Bitcoin, the case is getting stronger and stronger every single month when things go on. And we're starting to see it, right? When you have things like wars, people are starting to, ditch gold and go straight into Bitcoin. And it's outperforming things like gold pretty heavily right now. So, yeah, very interesting. Let's close this thing up, though. I'm going to give you guys the closing lines. Then I'm going to go hang out with my kids. Monday, April 6th, the world woke up. TradFi reopened, the longest holiday weekend of the year. Crypto has already priced the jobs data, absorbed the ceasefire proposal, and decided about 70K, not 60K, is the high we should be at right now. And it's sparking. Sorry, my brain's not working right now. Okay, yeah. So 195 million in shorts liquidated by a market that was positioned for a crash that didn't come. The entire industry was positioning for a big crash to come. Didn't happen. A lot of people got wrecked. Bitcoin tends to do that, man. You bet against Bitcoin, it's usually not a good move in the long term. So a lot of people, almost $200 million got liquidated trying to short it. What else we got here? Levels that define the range. Yeah, so we're going to see what happens the rest of this week, but I said it last week. I think we're going to have a pretty good week this week. And let's hope with everything that happens with the war gets at least we get some type of, resolution, whether it just be on either way, right? We could just see what direction this is headed. So hopefully it's positive. Then they can sign some kind of peace treaty, at least in the short term, and ceasefire, because that's not good for anybody. And then I think we will see the market have a pretty nice pump. Altcoins doing better. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good week, man. Be nice to each other. Be safe out there. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. Much love. Peace.